up, everybody? Jeremy here with my grandpa here. Your name is?
Beg your pardon?
Oh wait, you're wearing a name badge. That's Herb Lewis.
Yeah, I'm Herb Lewis.
So we are here in Las Vegas at the rendezvous of
National Order of Transstrats. It's our annual meeting once a year here in Las Vegas at the Plaza Hotel.
and we're all dressed up in suits because we're going to the banquet.
Right. Tonight's the last night. We've had business meetings for 3 days.
All right, so you've probably saw our video where we were driving here, flying here. Yeah, we were driving too. Walking around on Fremont Street, but I really haven't quite introduced who he is. So in a reasonable amount of time, what's a little bit of your military background?
Well, I have 18 and a half years of service. As a 17-year-old, I enlisted in the Navy October 22nd of 1944 and was sent to Farragut Naval Training Station in Athol next to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, on Lake Pend Oreille. I was there from October to December. We got out just in time to go home for Christmas in St. Louis and back to Farragut to pick up our luggage, our sea bags, and went off to radio school in San Francisco for 6 months. From there, I went to Oceanside, California for another radio school to be a radio operator for the 5th Marine Corps. But matters came up and I went back to the Navy and shipped out before September to Hawaii. And that was 1944, and I stayed in Hawaii during the remainder of the war. I worked in several different islands. One island for 6 months, had no trees. It was just a barren coral atoll strip with 24 personnel on there, and we were a gas station on what was called the Magic Carpet, where all the materials were being shipped and flown out to the troops who were further out in the Pacific. And planes would fly out of Pearl and gas up with us. It was 500 miles, and next 500 miles they'd stop at Midway and gas up and then fly out 500 miles to get on their ships, which saved a lot of time and travel for the big carriers. And so we were support to all of that effort with the Magic Carpet. And after that 6-month tour, actually it was 2 90-day voluntary tours. I volunteered to get there and I volunteered to stay there. And so after 6 months, the Navy regulations didn't allow us to stay any longer because it was cruel and unconscionable punishment to be stationed at a place like I was at. So I went back and I spent 13 months on Maui at Naval Air Station in Kailua, Maui. The war ended and I came back in January of 1946 on points and went back to join my parents on the East Coast. And over the years, I was out of the military until 51, and 51 the Korean War started and I re-enlisted in the Naval Reserve. While I was in the Naval Reserve, I got working for an Air National Guard outfit in Connecticut, and they hoodwinked me. They talked me into enlisting while I was still in the Navy, which led to an interesting time with the Admiral down in New York City. He didn't like that. Desertion from the Navy in time of war. But I went on active duty at that time with the Air National Guard, Suffolk County Air Force Base. We built it, actually. It was a county airport, and we built the air base, Suffolk County Air Force Base, for Air Defense Command. I was there until early fall of 1962. That was in 61. I got back in 62, back to Connecticut, although I got home most weekends. So it was an easy time for me. I didn't get to Korea. That's what I wanted to do. And I got back and tried a few other jobs and then settled in. The Air National Guard took me back and sent me to Illinois for 12 months to communications electronics school for fighter planes. And when I got back, they had changed the planes and changed the plan, and I changed my plans. And I was out of the Air National Guard for about 3 months, and I took a job with the Air National Guard permanently and joined the Air National Guard again. And I spent 10 years in Milford, Connecticut, and Orange, Connecticut with that Air National Guard unit, during which time I was deployed to Germany during the Berlin Wall crisis. After I got home on a supply run, I injured my right wrist and spent the next couple of years in and out of hospitals and controversy, and then they sent me to another school for a year, and I got back, and a year after I got back, they decided that I was physically unqualified for medical reasons to be re-enlisted when my enlistment ran out. But all during that time, for the 10-year period we just covered, I was an employee, a government employee for the Air National Guard, for the unit that I was assigned to as Master Sergeant, Senior Non-Commissioned Officer in the squadron. So I retired in June of 1965. It was a birthday present. June 16th was my birthday. And I moved to Florida into a house across the street from my mother and dad, who needed my help. And I've been in Florida ever since, without any military enlistments, but throughout almost all of that time, after the VA saved my life when I had blood poisoning in '65, 3 months after I got there, I have been affiliated with veteran service organizations, Disabled American Veterans and National Order Trench Rats. And I went up the line of promotions for an office and had a stroke, physical stroke, and they thought I was going to die and not get to the top, so they flew me over to Cuckoo Nest and created an honorary position. So I'm honorary Imperial Rodent number 1. Had to be certified by the United States Supreme Court to have that position. And I'm one of the leaders, the elders. Matter of fact, I'm probably the oldest, being 93.
96.
96. Who's 96?
You are.
I'm 96?
Yes, you are. 1920.
I was born in 26.
26, which would make you 96.
So anyway,
yeah.
It doesn't matter. I'm still here.
That's
and
right.
I will be here. I'm due to come back here again next year, and I hope to.
Yeah, I hope you come back too. Now, what is it that the rats actually do? What kind of services do they provide?
Our motto is Veterans Helping Veterans, and we coordinate most of our efforts through the Veterans Administration on their campuses at their healthcare centers. But we're not restricted to that, and we now go into civilian nursing homes to visit veterans because the VA is placing them there. The VA doesn't have enough beds. So they're sending their veterans out into the nursing homes, and they give us a list. We contact those nursing homes and get certified to go in there, and then we do bingos at the VA, or we bring parties or gifts, or some of the patients that are in the nursing homes are allowed to go out, so we get certified to take them to local restaurants so they get a lunch away from, break up their day.
Excellent.
Just trying to make them more cheerful, but we don't handle patients, we don't lay hands on, we merely accompany them
right.
and accommodate them. But our quest is Veterans Helping Veterans, and we do whatever appears to be needed within our means. And so we have to have fundraisers, various ways, garage sales, bingos,
cookouts.
Other things, cookouts. So we go to the hospital and have a cookout where the VA buy it. We give them the money, and they go out and buy the groceries. We're not allowed to buy the groceries, and they fix the lunch for the patients in the nursing home at the VA who are able to get out of bed. And we'll go out in the sunlight on the patio, and we're the servers on the serving line. We'll tend the kettle of beans or whatever it is at the main course, and do that for them. When I had the car club doing car shows at the VA, we'd bring those who could get out of bed. And a lot of them that were in bed, they put in wheelchairs. And then the members of the car club would go and push the wheelchairs and bring them on the patio at the VA, and we'd sit down with them. They were never left alone. We'd sit and have lunch with them and take them back. Our car shows provided over $40,000 in cash to the VA at Bay Pines, Florida, and the one that I can see from my house when I look across the intercoastal. I go out on the dock and I can wave to the VA hospital. I used to swim there for my appointments, so sharks got too thick.
And the good part about having the veterans helping veterans is you guys have similar life experiences that civilians like myself can really not relate with.
We relate to them. I was running a log cabin on the beach at a restaurant that had been left for veterans, and it evolved. The city of Madeira Beach took it over, and then I took the lease through the DAV chapter to do all of the personnel work in the building, taking care of everything, preparing the food and so forth. Right. And on Fridays we would have the PTSD group and a couple other groups transported by VA vans out to the restaurant and feed them. And on their fourth week in the course, they were allowed to bring their wives with them. And so we just sat out there in that nice veranda overlooking the Gulf of Mexico and watching the crowd. And it took the hospital out of their mind as far as they were out away from all of that medical portion, all of the VA portion. And they enjoyed the hamburger. They said the hamburgers tasted better because of it. and some of the girls that were on the beach would come up. We'd coax them up, and they weren't allowed to sit on anybody's knees or touch them, but they'd come up and chat with these fellas.
I did see, as we're in Vegas, a lot of the ladies here in Vegas love these guys.
Yeah,
they do love you guys. There's a lot of thank you for your services. There's an absolute love for these guys that have really dedicated their lives.
Here now, I bought my first one of these here in Vegas, out on the Strip, and on Fremont Street.
World War II.
World War II veteran.
Yeah.
And I didn't have it on my head for 5
minutes,
and a woman ran up, put her arms around my neck and kissed me and thanked me for my service. Then her husband brought the cocktails and asked me if I wanted one.
Yeah.
So I meet the nicest people in the world by wearing that hat.
Yeah. Now something else that I've run into that time is as we were walking around the Golden Gate, you were pointing out some of those photos. You have a history of being a drummer and a musician.
Correct? Oh yeah, I was a professional drummer for 25 years. Had my union card. I wasn't working all that time, and then when I was injured, the first time I went out to go to work as a drummer, I dropped a stick and it bounced off the bandstand, hit the dance floor, and went up and put a dimple in a woman's middle of her forehead, and she sued. She sued the nightclub where we were playing. She sued the band, and she sued the American Federation of Musicians. Well, they took umbrage with that. They came to me and they took my membership card away from me after 25 years because they had to pay money out because of my conduct.
Right.
And so my wife sold the drums off, and that was it. I haven't played since 1962.
But who are some of the people that you got to play with?
Oh, well, I started out with a fellow that I met in the Navy whose name was Ray Anthony. His wife was Mamie Van Dorn. She was one of the large-chested females of the day when television was starting, because I hit the streets in New York as a musician at the same time that television was coming into the vogue. It was a baby, and So we worked out of a studio in New York City, Deluxe Studios, and one of the people that was there was Dean Martin. And when this little 11-piece band that I was with got a booking down in Asbury Park, New Jersey, Dean was just leaving. He had been there the week before, but he worked out of the same studio, but he wasn't a member of a band. He was a solo, and he was on his way to a new job. He was going to meet this young Jewish comedian that he didn't know anything about, and it turned out it was Jerry Lewis. I'm a Lewis, Jerry was a Lewis, but I never met Jerry.
Right.
And Dean still owes me the 2 white shirts he took when he left the hotel.
I remember you saying that when you walked by his picture.
Well, he was an alcoholic then. He was a womanizer, and they wouldn't trust him with the money to buy his train ticket. They had they wrote a check to the hotel, and the hotel bought him the train ticket on the right day, so he couldn't cash it in. And we escorted him.
Yeah.
We drove him out to the train station in Asbury Park. That's the last I saw of him.
Yeah. Well,
But I played with the bands, and then when things got tough in the 60s, before I went overseas, we had broken down, so I was playing with 4 or 5 people. For a while, I was part of a trio. It was a drum, a saxophone, and a piano, which is a tough gig, but and I learned to play all sorts of music, including German music. So when I deployed for to Germany in '61 for the Berlin crisis, Berlin Wall, I knew how to play Oompa when I got over there, and then it surprised me. They took me to this little basement club called the 21, which was in German is 21, and so it was the 21 Club. Turned out to be the jazz club, the jazz center for the county that we were in. And so I was a guest drummer there quite a number of nights, no pay, but nice to be a guest. So, but I haven't played since '62, and I miss it terribly.
I know that you were trying to get us as kids to play drums, but Mom just wouldn't allow no drums in the house.
Oh, they're terrible.
Yeah.
They were addicted.
Yeah. My son right now is a clarinet player, and he was originally going to do drums. He was so happy when he heard he was going to be a drummer, but the school just wasn't able to get the drums, so he decided to choose clarinet instead.
I had a chance to play for a number of different guest sit-ins when they needed them. So it was with Woody Herman, who was a clarinetist.
Right.
He was one of the best bands in the world. And but those things happen, you know. Life goes on.
Yeah.
And I got into the Rats because I was a member of the DAV. My wife got me a membership in the DAV in 1988. I didn't participate until I retired. Definitely retired. I retired 5 times. Definitely retired and was staying at home. And so
you know, when you go idle, you need something to do, and this is what you know. This is what you know, and the people that you know, and what works.
Well, I got busy with the DAV, and through the Rats were part of the DAV. They're an organization that was formed in 1920 and 21, actually certified in 22. We're coming up on our 100th birthday here this year. Oh darn.
They were doing the Spanish-style hospitals? The Spanish-style hospitals like in Bay Pines?
Yeah. But we're certified, our Fez, picture of our Fez.
I'll go get it. This thing is amazing. I panned by it earlier, but look at this.
Picture of this, one similar to it.
Right.
In Bay Pines, they have more than 33, I don't know the total number now, pictures on the wall framed with the symbols of the organizations that volunteer there. We have over 100 organizations servicing the one at Bay Pines for usually the leading financial contributor to the VA of all the VA hospitals.
Yeah.
And we're one of the smallest, but we have such a marvelous group of organizations who have wonderful volunteers that come in.
Because as much as the government wants from these men to be their soldiers, they're not always there for them.
Right. Well,
when they need them at the end of life and need them while they're starting to break down.
That's unfortunate.
And that's where your groups start coming in.
That's unfortunate. And what our purpose is, we go in there and bring finances in to pay for the things that the VA is not allowed to.
Right.
That they're not certified to pay for. And there are hundreds of situations
like
and items.
Personal comfort items and stuff like that.
Well, all of those electric carts, now we have them now that 8-passenger golf carts that transport the disabled veterans from the parking lot into the building that they're going to get their help from. And some of those things cost $75,000 a piece and whatever. Well, government doesn't buy those.
Yeah.
We buy them. The government maintains them, but we buy them. And so many things that you can think of. It's more than just giving them a lunch out or a day out or a bus ride or something like that, but prosthetics.
Right.
Almost half of the money that comes into my hospital to buy the prosthesis for the amputees is donated.
Right.
So, but then at that time the VA, the government claims them. So if you have a hip replacement, when you die, they recall the hip. They really do. There was a scandal about that because they were passing on the disease, that you get from things not being properly sanitized.
Right.
So it's hard to determine what the government will do and what they won't do. But they can't. It takes years and years to cover all of the items all of the issues that happen on a VA hospital campus.
Well,
I'm not totally defending them. It's not the hospital's fault. It's the government's fault, and it's.
There's a lot of things to do, and
I
know that they're probably trying to focus on the essentials and trying to get all of the essentials done. But sometimes there's these things that fall through the crack.
The VA has some very, very strict rules and regulations of conduct for the volunteers, and the interchange with the employees.
Right.
And still there are some infractions take place, but not like in a civilian hospital.
Right.
And I trust the VA. I've had major surgeries. They saved my life.
Yeah.
They took care of my prostate cancer, and here I am in the 90s, and I have no business still being alive with all I've been through.
But part of that is because of the VA.
Right, absolutely.
So
yeah, well, I didn't start using medical care off campus until 1997.
Right.
So
we just went 23 minutes without stopping and mumbling or.
yeah.
So I think that's a good length right there.
Okay.
Because it is almost time to go to our banquet.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
And maybe there will be a part 2. And you know what? This was long enough and amazing.
Can you erase where I just rubbed my nose?
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. You got a pass. It's called being in your 90s.
Okay.
So we're going to.
You're going to become a trench rat, right?
Yep.
It's allowed. It's
a
generational thing.
So what are the requirements to get into the trench rats? So let's do that real quick.
In order to get into the trench rats, all you need is a discharge from a military unit, United States military unit.
And you guys
qualify you for it.
And you guys are in need of new members. That's because his generation is starting to age out, and
my generation is gone.
Your generation's gone. Even the next generation is starting to age out.
Well,
and that's a nice way of saying
we've run out of Korean War veterans.
Right.
We're running out of Vietnam veterans.
And the younger generation of soldiers, I don't know if they really know all that you do and what you put into it.
We get very little chance to talk to them because new organizations rose up out of the roots.
Right.
And, you know, Wounded Warriors and USSA and all these other things that started, and they've got all the people from the original
Right.
Desert Storm until present time pretty much in their grasp.
Yeah. But you heard a little bit of the history of this group, and this group is
Veterans
A-OK
helping
in my book.
veterans.
Yes. If you're a veteran, you want to help other veterans, look up the Trench Rats. Look up to see how to become a member, and
We're fully certified with the
Yeah.
United States government to present ourselves on government property.
on that we're out. So, what do you got to say? Enjoy.